Let's start by writing down the date again. So in the first row, we have asset cost. This goes all the way over and gets entered in as the asset book value. Now the beauty of this method is that the asset book value gets copied straight down here. And it happens throughout until the very end in this case. So we've already solved the first calculation earlier in the note. 40% of 21,000 is 8,400. Of course, the next column will have the same number since we start accumulating from 0. Then to figure out the new asset book value, we go ahead and subtract 8,400 from 21,000, and we should get 12,600. So under this method, you're going to see the numbers, the value, drop quite quickly. So again, copy it over. Quick calculation. Add to the last number in this column and subtract from 21,000. A little bit of an error here. Let's fix that. Now we've gone ahead and reached the final year of the amortization. And if you do the calculation, you will see that we do not end up with exactly the salvage value. And as I mentioned, that's not expected to happen very often at all. So taking 40% of 2722 gives us 1089, which will leave us with a salvage value or end value of 1633. That's not what we want. We want to end with 1,000. So what we'll do is we'll cross this off and we'll call this a plug. And we're going to work backwards here. So our salvage value should be 1,000. And for the math to work, the accumulated amortization has to be 20,000. So 21,000 minus 20,000 give you a salvage value of 1,000. Then looking at the difference between 18,278 and 20,000, according to the plug method, the amortization amount should be 1722. So you can take the difference between this and this like we did, or you can just take the difference between here and here. They'll both give you 1722. And to put it down on paper, so you can look back on it and understand what we did, that the final year amortization ends up being 27, 22, the previous year's book value, and 1,000, what we need the book value to be. So difference between those two ends up being the amortization amount in the final year. So you kind of work backwards with that. Hope that makes sense. Now that we are familiar with these three amortization methods, we can see that a certain method might be more appropriate for a specific asset. If an asset is consistently productive over time, the straight line method would work best. If an asset wears out due to physical wear and tear rather than obsolescence, the units of production method is most appropriate. Finally, if an asset is more useful or productive in its early age, the double declining balance method would work best. So you want to kind of look at the nature of your company, the nature of your business, see how specific assets are used, and try to find a method which best reflects what you do. So we're going to do a quick review exercise here. What does the bookstore do to calculate amortization for each quarter under each of the three methods? Answer: the amortization amount is prorated based on number of months. Let's use the bookstore's truck being amortized under the straight line method as an example. So 21,000 minus 1,000, that gives us our amortizable value. Then we were expecting the truck to last 5 years, so we take 1 over 5 because we're only focused on the first year or 1 year in this situation. And within that 1 year, we're only concerned about 1 quarter, so 3 over 12 months. So after you do that calculation, we get a nice round number of $1,000 per quarter. Note that if the books are recorded amortization once per year as opposed to quarterly, the straight line calculation would simply be 21,000 minus 1,000 times 1 over 5. So you take an annual rate. This is no different from dividing 20,000 by 5. Multiplying by 105 is the same thing, and you get 4,000 per year. So this is what would happen if we had the straight line method for the truck. We didn't do that for the truck. We used a computer for that example, earlier in our notes, for straight line. So here comes a good question. What if the estimate for amortization of an asset ends up being incorrect? Answer: the amortization rate is revised to reflect updated information. We do not change amortization for years past, only for upcoming years. And here's how it's done. So similar to the straight line formula we're very familiar with, there are some interesting twists in it though. So you start off with cost, take off all the amortization you've already accumulated, and take off the new salvage value. So you might have a change in salvage value, you might not. And you divide it by the remaining useful years. So this is an estimate, of course. No one knows for sure, but you make a new estimate. And again, the estimate of years might not change, and we're going to see that. So we're going to go into a couple of examples. First, assume that the bookstore realizes, after using the truck for 2 years, that the asset will last an extra year, but the salvage value is still 1,000. Under the straight line method, the calculation is as follows. So we're at the end of 2 years, and we're just figuring out how much amortization has happened in those 2 years under the straight line method, and the rate that we calculated. We're amortizing at $4,000 per year. So for 2 years, it's straightforward. 8,000 times 2 means we've amortized $8,000. So take a minute here and try figuring out the revised straight line amortization rate, and we will continue in just a minute here in the same video. So this is how your calculation should look like. You have 21,000 as your historical cost, 8,000 which has already been amortized, and the salvage value remains unchanged at $1,000. We have an extra year added, so remember that we're at the end of 2 years, so we originally had 3 years left, 5 years total for the truck. Now, since we've added an extra year, there's 4 years left, so the truck will last a total of 6 years now. So going forward, our rate will be $3,000 per year. It's gone down by 1,000, as we would expect it to go down, since we're adding an extra year of amortization without changing anything else. Hence, for the next 4 years, the truck will be amortized $3,000 per year. At the end of its 6th year, the truck will be fully amortized, reaching its salvage value of $1,000. Now, let's assume that the bookstore realizes, after using the truck for 2 years, again, that the asset will only last 2 more years, so a total of 4 years, and the salvage value will be $3,000. Under the straight line method, the calculation is as follows. So take a minute to try this. Remember, we're still working with the original data, where the truck had been used for 2 years, and the bookstore was originally expecting it to last 3 more, for a total of 5. So have a crack at this, and we will continue in the next video.